Bruce, who was Bruce LaRose? I mean, I know who he was, but.
He was the Bayfield High School superintendent.
And Emerald Shields was,
The highway, Ashland County Highway
and
Commission.
he was the only commissioner that had a certification in engineering. And he knew a lot. He was a real valuable asset to the town,
Very valuable.
up until just recently.
Yeah, he drew plans up for a lot of things. Matter of fact, one of his last acts of the county was to do Bryant's Road and Big Arns Road. The county crew did it in the end.
We do have time for other questions.
Can you think of any specific incidents where you used the term mind-boggling?
I can, I use it all the time, but one thing that really sticks out at me is how La Pointe pays almost 50% of the Bayfield school tax, and how we pay 25% of the Ashland County tax and get so little back in return. And we're just not able to do things that we should be able to do for ourselves because, I mean, look at what the town of La Pointe has. A harbor, an airport, its own solid waste recycling, its own liquid waste recycling. And it gets pretty complicated at times, especially when I mean, I like the way the state of Wisconsin is set up with its statutes and how it lays, how town governments need to work. But at times it gets confusing and complicated and costly, especially when you've got to deal with a ferry boat. But I use mind-boggling a lot.
Can we go around the room and say examples of when we've heard you use the word mind-boggling? That might be a whole nother pop-up.
Why don't you go ahead with one at least, Leslie?
Actually, I do have a question about the gravel, which is a most boring question, but I was at a funeral last week and a lot of the people hadn't been on the island for 40 years and they said, oh, the gravel's changed so much. That's what they kept saying. It used to be, was it like from the pit that it used to be from and now it's blasted around?
Well, yeah, every load of gravel we've gotten is different. I mean, the town Arnie's been stockpiling waste rock and then he hired a crusher to come over here, just wasn't very long ago. And he also, at that time, the crushing people told me he still didn't have enough rock, even though he had an immense pile out of the North Shore pit. Him and Ronnie owned a pit down in Mellon, I think they still do. Black granite, he trucked over gravel for a month in the ferry boats, and they crushed that. So that was a certain type of gravel. It made grade 2 or class 5 specifications. But one of our loads was red gravel from someplace, I think Crooked Lake. Another load was gravel from over by Hurley, so
Gravel are like beach stones or something.
gravel changes all the time, but
Yeah.
it supposedly meets the specifications of what constitutes road gravel.
Probably didn't in the past, I'm guessing.
I was one of the first, I was on the original CAP committee, and I just want to say that I don't remember what the issue was, but it might have been the bike trail, the grant that Joanne Hennings wrote, and you and probably other administrative people wanted a committee to weigh the choices, you know, and we were involved for some reason, so you formed this new CAP committee, otherwise known as the CRAP committee.
Like I said, I thought that was because of the state mandated comprehensive plan that we had to do.
I believe personally that the town was forward thinking and we had formed this committee, and then like within 6 months the state said, oh yeah, by the way, you have to have a comprehensive plan. I couldn't go back.
Look it up in the minutes.
Yeah, right.
Unless Waggy remembers, she might.
I don't remember.
Everything's got it somewhere.
But I just remember, nobody could decide how many people would be on that committee, and after a while, it was decided, anybody who wants to be on that committee will be, and it was a 12-member committee. But it worked, People came and went a lot, but, a diversity of ideas.
That's for sure.
Another thing you did, Keith, which I have read, and I actually still have some of the copies of it, is a comprehensive trail plan for the island. You went through all the trails.
Oh, that's right, there was a trail committee.
There was a trail committee. You were chairman and you did all the work, but, or at least it appeared that way, but I still have copies of your comprehensive trail plan for the island.
Thank you, Bonnie.
It's thorough. You may have done it as a grant requirement. Some of the grants on the Capture Trail required a plan, so you needed a committee to make a plan. But it's still very valid. It really is.
Yeah, and most of those plans came as a result of a requirement for money. Which is, I don't know, when I was a foreman, especially the foreman, I looked for money all the time. Otherwise, the town wasn't gonna fund half the stuff we did all by its lonesome, so.
Keith, as a roads guy, driving the Trans-Canada Highway, could you drive it without critiquing their drainage?
When I drove it, it was pretty good.
Oh,
They were working a lot in the Yukon, and there was some gravel sections of that, but most of it was asphalt.
there you go. Good.
Yeah.
Not too many flats.
Yeah.
Good.
And most of the world isn't clay like Madeline. You know, clay is, drainage is just essential with clay.
Yeah, non-existent.
You talked a lot about the county road. When was that paved?
The county road,
Like on the north,
well,
where we are?
they've been paving the county road for a long time, since the 40s, I think.
No?
They had coal mix plants and stuff. But it was all,
Blacktop?
yeah, it was all
It was
crumbling
sand.
apart.
It was
Blacktop
sandy.
ended at
It was-
Rice Street on Big Bay Road when I was
Black
a
sand.
kid. And that's as far as it went, it was just
Yeah.
downtown.
There was portions of the whole county road that had asphalt on it, I'm almost positive. I'm sure there was asphalt in front of Leo Crohn's. I don't know.
Maybe I was going out Big Bay, it definitely ended at
Yeah,
Rice Street. So from there, going out was gravel.
Yeah, and at the far end, I've got a picture of my son in the 70s playing in the sand on the road. And it was sand.
It was paved.
anyways, that was 88, is when the big paving project happened,
88.
Right.
88.
Okay.
That's when I'll never forget, after they opened the road back up, when they first got the gravel on it, I was driving my shit truck down the road, I was almost crying because it was so smooth and beautiful. I just couldn't believe it, that this was all really gonna happen.
Okay. In all your years, what was the most fun that you had as a chairman or the foreman?
Fun?
Retiring?
Yeah. I don't know, I don't think any of it was fun. I enjoyed sitting on the bulldozer and just being creative, and so that was the most fun, when I didn't have to be mind boggled.